Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Prime News, and today we have a jam-packed show for you, starting off with the downloads of the Nintendo Switch Online app. In effect, the total amount of downloads. It appears 5 million people have downloaded the Nintendo Switch Online app across iOS and Android devices. Now, this data comes from Sensor Tower, a professional analyzation group that gives us basically the sales figures for various games and applications on, well, mobile devices. This is where we've gotten most of the data for Pokemon Go and several other apps, including Super Mario Runs, download installs, and number of purchases. All that stuff, they analyze all of this data and then spit us out some numbers. So does this mean there's 5 million people that are at least paying for the Nintendo Switch Online service? No. In fact, there could be more and there could be less. This data is cumulative, so this dates back to when the app was free and released last summer. So what was the increase today? Well, they don't give us that data. They only give us what the lifetime to date installs are. Now, that being said, again, you don't need to download this app to basically pay for the Nintendo Switch Online service and use it. So again, this isn't really a good metric, but it does give you an idea that 5 million people at least tried out the application and that there's probably at least a few million people who are paying for Nintendo Switch's online service, if not more. I will say personally, I have not seen any issues playing multiplayer games on Switch since the service launched. In fact, normally you would think if there were less people playing or a significantly less people playing, that we would see a big dip off in the player base. And while that may have occurred, I'm not noticing it in my online matches. They're not taking any longer to match up, any longer to occur, and things seem to be working rather smoothly, at least for now. We'll have to wait and see if this number increases over time and if you guys are actually using the app. In fact, if you like the Nintendo Switch Online voice app, let me know down in the comments below. I've been highly critical of it, but you know what? Let's get some other perspectives in here, and you guys tell me how you feel about that. So for our next story, we're talking about Wolfenstein 2, the new Colossus on Switch. Yes, folks, we're going back to that one. And why are we going back to it? Because a new patch was released for it, patch 1.2. And there's a bunch of patch notes for it. And the patch notes just basically talk about some bugs and auto-centering and recentering things with motion controls, things that existed in Doom, whatever, and have been now patched and fixed up in Wolfenstein 2. But there's a specific part of this update that's getting all of the attention today, and that is the general performance improvements, which feels a lot like Nintendo's system stabilization updates. However, there seems to be a tangible, noticeable difference. We are seeing reports from players that the frame rate has increased in open areas like New Orleans. For those that haven't played the game, New Orleans is a town in the game, or a city really in the game, and it's mostly completely open, and the frame rate on Switch would dip down into the single digits quite regularly, and apparently that's not happening anymore. In fact, it almost feels stable at 30 in New Orleans now, which is crazy. That's a massive increase over what the frame rate was doing before. This isn't the only performance increase, however. In docked mode, the resolution appears to have been bumped across the board. People are noticing that images and the game itself just looks a lot sharper everywhere, not just in New Orleans where performance was at its worst, but across the entire game. This is massive news, and it really excites me to see a game like Wolfenstein 2 that is as good as it is and deserves more attention than it got last year and got this year, getting these kind of increases. Because one, as a Wolfenstein 2 player myself, this makes the game more fun and even more playable for me. And two, it justifies the Switch version even more. Because again, the two biggest knocks against the Switch version were drops in resolution, sometimes down to substandard. So, standard resolutions 480. Sometimes we would see resolutions of 340 on Nintendo Switch. That appears to be something that might be fixed, at least in docked mode. Handheld mode, people aren't necessarily noticing if there's a bump in resolution there, although it's possible. We'd have to wait for someone like Digital Foundry to put something out, because Digital Foundry has a direct capture switch where they can capture handheld footage, something that like 99% of the internet can't do to confirm. But we can do captures of it and in docked mode and see, yeah, the resolution looks like it's better. How much better? I don't know. Again, we got to wait for some performance analysis. Why haven't I done it? Well, I currently don't have my copy of Wolfenstein 2 on me. Sorry about that. That being said, this is great news, and I can't wait to see what other performance increases might be happening. I mean, clearly the game must have sold okay for them to even want to put this update out there. So, like Doom today on Switch is significantly better than when it was at launch. NBA 2K18 got significantly better than it was at launch. Now Wolfenstein 2 is in that company of the game is now, I'd say, even more than passable on Switch at this point, more than playable at this point. It's fully enjoyable as long as you can handle 30 FPS versus 60. Our next story is, I love this story. I love delivering news like this, and you guys better take advantage, and that has to do with micro SD cards for Nintendo Switch. Now, they can be used for anything. They don't have to be for Nintendo Switch, but Amazon is holding a massive sale that ends at midnight tonight. So this is quick flash sale. Get on this now. If you're watching this video tomorrow, it's already too late. You've already missed out on the deal, and I'm sorry. I don't know if you'll have to wait for Black Friday, but this is huge. Storage on Switch is obviously a concern. If you buy digitally, if you buy these AAA games, they take up a lot of space. I'm personally using a 200 gigabyte card in my Switch right now that I paid, I don't know, 70, 80 bucks for. Well, to get that same 200 gigabyte card today, at least according to SanDisk's listing on Amazon, it would only cost me $34.99. You want to know what's even better? You want the 400 gig card? Typically, this is $250. Practically the cost of a Nintendo Switch. Today, $99. $150 off. Massive sales. It goes beyond that. The 256 SanDisk's micro SD cards are now down to $51.99, and the 128s are as low as $26.80. Guys, if you are looking to upgrade the storage on your Switch to bigger than you currently have, or you just need more storage in general, like me, I'm full at 200. I need to get that 400 one. Well, today's the day to do it. In fact, I'm going to try to find a way to bite the bullet and purchase one for myself today because this is an insane deal. I've never seen them this low. Now's the time, folks. Get new micro SD cards if you've ever wanted more storage right now. In fact, I will include affiliate links down in the description below to each of the 128, 200, 256, and 400 cards, so you can go directly to them. These are going to be United States link. You're going to have to go to your local Amazon if you're in another country to see what the deals are there for euros and pounds and all that stuff. But for here in the US, this is amazing. And again, check those links in the description. And by the way, because they're affiliate links, it does mean if you do happen to buy one through the affiliate link, it does throw a little kickback to me. It doesn't make it cost any more to you. It's just Amazon basically saying, hey, thank you, Nintendo Prime, for linking our products. Here's a little kickback because someone bought something. Moving on, the next piece of news we're going to talk about is kind of bad news, but then it's irrelevant news at the same time. Japan players have noticed that since the 6.0.0 update of Nintendo Switch, that the upload speed of, just in general, of the internet on Switch has been limited to 8 megabytes per second, which to me sounds insanely low when I'm uploading videos at 30 megabytes a second and I can download them at 300, 400. And so as crazy as this sounds, 8 megabytes per second is actually perfectly fine for everything the Switch does. All of its online multiplayer games, all of its, any information you need to upload somewhere to play multiplayer games or play really anything on the platform, 8 megabytes is plenty fine. The weird thing isn't that it's 8 megabytes, it's that they didn't include this in the patch notes. Before, it was basically uncapped, and the download speeds are not affected by this at all either. So your download speeds are still quote-unquote uncapped. I wonder if there's an eShop cap, to be fair, because I seem to have a lot of issues downloading stuff off the eShop speed-wise, whereas if I download it over Wi-Fi or LAN on my PC, I get much better speeds than over it. So I think there actually is a limiter in there, but whatever, it's not part of this patch. So I guess the only thing is, Nintendo, it's not a big deal. It's not like a huge deal. Most, like 99% of your consumers aren't going to care, aren't going to notice, but it would be good to be a little transparent on this front for the few people that I guess might care. And I guess the few people that might care are hackers, so I guess it really doesn't matter. Okay, Nintendo, I can't blame you for not mentioning it this time. Moving on, Shin'en Multimedia has announced that they have basically a new Switch game announcement tomorrow. They didn't say new Switch game, they put up a tweet about it, which essentially says, hey, are you curious about what we've been doing since Fast RMX Racing, which was an exclusive Switch title? Tune in tomorrow because you're going to find out. So that sounds like it's going to be a new game announcement. If it's not a new game announcement, That would be really weird if a game developer's only thing they've been working on since Fast RMX is not a new game. Could be DLC, to be fair. I know fan speculation has been running wild on this. I think that Fast RMX was so good that I would love if Nintendo would have contacted them and said, hey, look, Fast RMX was great. What can you do with the F-Zero franchise? Wouldn't that be fantastic? Now, here's the thing. The reason I don't think it's F-Zero is I don't think Shin'en Multimedia would be the ones to announce an F-Zero game. I think it would be something Nintendo does. Now, to be fair, they never said Nintendo's not announcing it. They just said tune in tomorrow. So maybe Nintendo is going to do the announcement if it was an F-Zero game tomorrow. But I doubt it. But I think if there ever was an indie studio to use on a Nintendo IP based on Fast RMX, F-Zero makes a ton of sense to go to them. Now, they have other franchises and other IPs in the works that they have done in the past, and it definitely could be another one of those. Maybe it's a brand new IP. We don't really know what this is. All I know is, hey, tomorrow we're getting an announcement for a brand new Switch game, and that's always exciting. And I realize we seem to get announcements for games every day, you know, like indie games especially, but we're talking about an exclusive, most likely, since the last game they did was an exclusive. So a Switch exclusive indie game, gosh, you know we're going to be covering that tomorrow in Prime News. And the last story we're going to talk about today is kind of a sad tale on multiple fronts. First off, Telltale Games has requested that every platform remove the ability to purchase and download Telltale Games, The Walking Dead, the final season. Now, we're not sure what the reasoning is. We just know they've requested it and that it's already been completed on every platform. However, it's still available on Nintendo Switch. Now, it doesn't mean they didn't request of Nintendo. Nintendo could have denied their request, or they're just slow moving and it'll be removed later. So right now, you can still purchase the final season of The Walking Dead on Nintendo Switch. You just can't get it anywhere else in the moment. It might come back. You know, you never know. And there's a lot of developments with this because while it was originally announced that The Walking Dead final season, Chapter 3 and 4, that actually completes the whole Walking Dead series for Telltale, was not going to be completed. They since came out and said now some people are contacting them and they're trying to form a partnership to get the Chapter 3 and 4 out. And while all that was going on, all these employees they suddenly laid off out of nowhere, they didn't have a lot of nice things to say about Telltale Games. As you would expect, this is coming from disgruntled former employees, so you always have to take that into mind that they clearly are not happy with their situation, and so this might sound exaggerated, but what they are putting out in the world right now isn't good. Let me give you a few examples. So some former Telltale employees have noted that they had to work forced overtime, which isn't unusual. You get forced overtime in a lot of fields, but you're usually paid for that forced overtime. They were not. They put in extra hours, didn't even get base pay, let alone overtime pay. Probably against the law there, to be completely honest, especially in the United States. Pretty sure that breaks a lot of labor laws, but that happened. And the belief was, in doing this, it would lead to perks down the road, whether it was bonuses on game sales or, at least bare minimum, a severance package when they decide to lay off practically all the employees in the whole company. And apparently, no one, absolutely zero people got a severance package. So they put in all this time, worked all these long hours, didn't get paid for it, and didn't even get compensated in any sort of severance way. Which I guess if the company's bankrupt, they don't have the money to compensate you anyways, but whatever. It's still, I can see why that would be expected from an employee standpoint, especially since you saw 25 employees on that are obviously getting paid somewhat. Beyond that, it gets worse. We have found out that they were actually hiring new developers like weeks before the studio closed, and those developers literally uprooted their families and moved to Seattle to work at this company, only to be laid off weeks later. And yes, there's always a risk in any job you take, but if you, like they knew 2-3 weeks ago that Telltale Studios was practically bankrupt. They knew that, and they still hired these employees who uprooted their whole families and got stuck now without a job after a few weeks. In addition to all of that, oh boy, the way the contracts were structured, according to 6 different Telltale employees now, they were structured in so much that they don't qualify for unemployment. So not only are you laid off and fired or whatever terminology they want to use, let go, you don't even get unemployment while you're looking for a new job. And in the Seattle area, it is very difficult to find these high quality programming jobs. They exist. There's a lot of them, but there's a lot of people trying to get them. So in a high demanding market with lots of competition to try to get new jobs, you don't even get an unemployment check to help you out during this transition. That is like someone deleting my YouTube channel and telling me you don't even get your next 2 months worth of payments that you already made. Wow. So I feel for the former employees. It definitely sounds like Telltale made a lot of mistakes at the top. And at this point, I almost don't even care if The Walking Dead gets finished off as much as I enjoy the series, because ultimately, how do we know that whatever partnership they make with some other company to fund it and finish it off, they're not going to screw over the people working on that game too? All right, folks. That's going to do it for Prime News today. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. And if you liked the video, hit that like button. If you dislike it, hit that dislike button. Subscribe for more content. And I'll catch all of you guys in the next one.
Yes.